Star Trek the original series, Charlie X. This one was a little tough for me to get through because I felt so much empathy like towards the character, but I still understand that a threat is a threat. So the episode starts out with a 17-year-old boy who was picked up by a small research vessel of like around 20 people. And they pass him off onto the Enterprise. And it's abundantly clear, like even when you first meet him, that he just isn't very socialized. He keeps interrupting when people are talking, and he's enthusiastic, so he's just really excited to be around people. But at the same time, they're trying to have a conversation and sort of like uh, and pass him off. They are meant to be taking him to a colony uh, to let him off and let him go and be amongst some people. It's revealed that he was the sole survivor of a crash when he was just a young child, and I think three maybe. So he's spent 14 years in some version of isolation, and it's stated that like the food supply of the ship would have run out within like the first year or two. So it's obvious that he had some help in surviving, but it's not clear at first how. Um, so he is going through the ship and observing social behaviors of the different crew members. He goes into the engine just to just to look around and see how things work. He sees a crewman slap like a coworker on the bottom, just to sort of like just bros will be bros, right? And he doesn't understand the social context uh, behind that. So he sees Yao-Min Rand and is just immediately struck by her. He has his first crush, and that's a really difficult time for anybody. But it must have been just incredibly more difficult with it being one of the first women that he'd ever seen. Uh, so he is immediately smitten with her, and of course, she's a bit older and is there in a professional capacity. So she's, trying to be nice to him, but in a more like nurturing kind of way, not in any way to wrongly um imply interest in him. It's kind of difficult for women when they show just basic human kindness towards like men, and it's misinterpreted as interest in them. It's a difficult subject matter that's still relevant today. So it was really interesting to see that handled is like pretty well so long ago. Um, so she goes and finds a younger Yaoman that's like closer in age to him to introduce him to. She's she doesn't have any ill intentions towards him. Um, but so during their first meeting, like he's talking to her in the hallway, and he like slaps her on the bottom. She's like gonna walk away because he had just seen that's like kind of like playful banter between like two like male coworkers, and he doesn't understand that, and she doesn't take the time to explain the social context of that, and she tells him instead to go and talk to Captain Kirk or Dr. McCoy uh, to uh, to kind of get like more of a father a fatherly figure explanation of how to behave, and he he goes and talks to Kirk about it, and he doesn't he's usually like really well spoken, but it's obvious that he's uncomfortable, and he just leaves it at there's no good way to hit a woman. Which, excuse me, which it would be a fine way to kind of shrug it off if you're uncomfortable, but like considering that this is the first he's hearing of it, and he has just no, um, he doesn't have the years of context that somebody usually would by 17 or by an adult of like how to behave and interact with people. He, you know, he's left with more questions than answers after after that. And in fairness, he doesn't do it again because they took the time to show him that what he did was wrong, and that's kind of a reoccurring theme throughout the episode. He has like these tantrums because again, he didn't have nurturing parents there to gently guide him uh, through his tantrums and how to handle his emotions and everything as a child, the way that like most well-adjusted people would by the time that they're 17. So he reacts with like fear and suspicion and anger to fairly normal social things. There's a scene where they're in the gym doing some like martial arts training, and the point is to try to knock each other over, and he's like grappling with Kirk, which you know, uh, my goodness, like Shatner was in surprisingly good shape on that show. Like I'm really surprised because like I've only ever seen him older, but like he really was like uh it takes a lot of confidence to put yourself out there. So it's really impressive, and he was like going for it with like the physical aspect of it, like getting like kind of tossed around and everything, and it's just really cool to see it. But he knocks Charlie over, which is like completely part of the learning process. Like he it's obvious that they would have been willing to take the time had they had the time to try to like guide him in the right way. But he a another like crewman just laughs because it's like, haha, you fell over. And that's it's uncomfortable, but that's definitely just part of the social fabric, and he just loses it because you know this is his first time interacting with people, and he wants it to go well, and he's just you know he's an emotional teen boy, and unfortunately it's revealed in this moment. There was some like weird clues and stuff like before that, but in this moment he starts to show off like the full gambit of his power, and he turns him into an iguana. I think he turned somebody into an iguana. I don't know if it was the first guy that laughed at him. Um, and then the next the next like part of the show was him like rapidly demonstrating like his powers. Um, he's going to be contained to his quarters until they can kind of figure out what to do, and he dematerializes all of the phasers on the ship, and they try to put him in a force field, and he just deletes the wall to get out, and he's just going around like wreaking havoc. There's never a point where he calms down. There's never a point where it can be de-escalated, even though there was attempts made to. And that's kind of the part where you realize it's like you want to be sympathetic for him, but you have to consider the life and safety of everybody else. And I like when stories like touch on that. There's too much sympathy for perpetrators of violent acts, and not enough and not enough like empathy for like victims and their families. You know, it was it's hard whenever there's a story where there's no perfect villain, where it's more complicated than that. So I like that about the show, that it's it stops being about the person and your feelings towards them, and has to be about the threat that that person faces. And you can have all the sympathy in the world for one person, but you have a responsibility and a duty to protect uh, everybody else. And the it was a really good look into the importance of social norms, and the agreement of behavior, where you can't really appreciate that just by showing it, and like, but something's wrong when you see it. And I thought that that was just a really interesting aspect of the episode. Um, he he's going through the hallway, just he erases a woman's face because he heard laughter. He made a different woman age rapidly, and he's like, just running into people. And there's a this happened earlier. I tried to do this chronologically. I apologize. There's a scene earlier where Uhura and Spock have like this kind of nice bonding moment where they're in the recreation room, and Spock's playing a harp and Uhura is singing, and it's a really great scene between the crew. But of course, Charlie comes in, and he wants the full attention of uh, Yaman. Um, Vance. I'm sorry. I'm still learning. I'm still learning some of the minor characters' names. He wants her full attention. So he does something to Uhura to make her unable to speak, to make her singing stop, because all the attention was on her, and he wanted it to be on him. And then he does these card tricks where he makes of photographs of her appear on the cards, and it's you know he's trying to impress her, but it just comes off as a little bit creepy. And and there's like a moment that they put in to kind of like endear him a little, where you understand that like you understand that like he has the propensity to do good if you can understand what that is, but he doesn't have the frame of reference to know right and wrong, because whoever were his caregivers, and that's revealed later, um, don't have the same understanding of morality that the people do. And there's this scene where he overhears Kirk on the on communicator, the intercom, with the cook saying, if we have to eat synthetic meatloaf for Thanksgiving, at least try to make it look like turkey. And later on, the 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 cook gets back to Kirk saying, I put the meatloaf in the oven, but now there are turkeys in the oven. So he got them turkey for Thanksgiving. He did something nice without like wanting any sort of recognition for it. He just, he was using his power. Um, you know, he was trying to be nice. Like there's a point where he hands her favorite perfume as a gift, and she's like, "Where did you get this? Because they don't sell it on the ship store." And she's really skeptical like of where it came from. But to him, he's like, it's a present, don't worry about it. And it's one of those, like, I don't know, it it's a shame, because you really get the impression that given more time that he wouldn't have been beyond redemption, but you can't have people's lives be in danger to bide your time. There's the research vessel that he was previously on. He, was under the impression that they didn't like him very much, and I wonder why. But I mean, he destroyed the vessel. He killed 20 people, and he didn't feel bad about it because, in his view, they didn't treat him well, so they weren't worthy of being alive. And that's, you know, that's not how you can view people. That's psychotic, right? To the average person, you can't, not everybody's gonna like you. You can't go around like blowing up research vessels because um mixed in with the good treatment of you, they treated you in a way that you felt was unfair. People have awkward social interactions all the time, but that doesn't mean that you should completely dismiss them as a person or think that there's any fault in you. Sometimes there's just tension, there's misunderstandings, and that's a nuance that somebody who didn't spend any time around people just doesn't have any understanding of. So, um, I thought the writing was really well. I thought that the actor that they got to play Charlie came off as a very creepy. Like you were uncomfortable anytime that he was on scene, or at least I was. Um, and you felt you felt bad because it showed that he wasn't a bad person. He just had no idea how to be a person because he wasn't raised in a normal society. It's Once they kind of overload his abilities, they're able to get communication through, and it's revealed that he was on the planet with Thalassians, and in order to save his life, they gave him some of their power, and they said, "Hey, we realized he escaped." Right? Because, like, he wasn't necessarily a prisoner, but they understood when they gave him the powers that made him unsafe to be around people. It was a judgment call they made. And from my understanding, they were doing their best to give him the best life they could. But I mean, they probably viewed him more as like a stray dog than as like a son or like you know, it he's like you know, again, another tantrum, but you feel bad for him. He's screaming that he doesn't want to go back. It's lonely. They're they're incorporeal, so like, he can't touch them. He can't have human contact, and that is so important, like even just like a hug or like a handshake, like people need to be around other people. We're social creatures. So the idea that he was raised with just these intangible beings to be around must have been incredibly lonely for him. And he, in his excitement to be around people again, he was just so overwhelmed. He was overwhelmed with the desire to impress people. He was overwhelmed, a teen boy. He was overwhelmed with the desire to impress the first girl that he had a crush on, and he ended up acting in a dangerous way because he had this unchecked power. And Unfortunately, while it makes him like a sympathetic threat, it made him a threat. And they have no choice but to return him to his solitude because he just is too dangerous to be left on the colony. He would end up, killing people. He would end up causing a lot of harm, and that's not fair to everybody else. Like no nobody but you is responsible for your social behavior. It's expected that you're going to treat other people with kindness, respect, and decency because that's what you expect from people. And having grown up with out that social contract. He just he's not a bad person, but he's a bad person to be around other people. And I don't know. It it the episodes that like really make you think are good ones, but they're also just uncomfortable to watch. And I mean like that's what fiction should do. It should make you a little uncomfortable to kind of stir um, thought exercises. And I don't know. It's something that I enjoy about the series, and I was glad to see it in some of the earlier episodes. What's the Dorothea Dorothy Fontana? Yeah, she wrote quite a bit for later Star Trek. So I'm gonna be seeing more of her work as I go through the other series, and I look forward to it. What was your opinion on Charlie X? How did you like first take it? I kind of wonder if I had seen it when I was younger, if I would have had more sympathy for the character than like understanding of like the ramifications of his unchecked power. Like because there's some stories that you can read when you're younger, and and then at different points in your life, and you kind of view the same story through a different lens. But yeah, I would have I would have compassion, but no but no problem removing a threat from all of the innocent people that they could end up hurting. So it was a shame to see it, but the yeah stories that make you think are the good ones. Take care.